Hopefully this won't be too long a talk, and we will have some room for some questions afterwards. Just as a straw poll, hands up if you've already Mavericked. Oh, okay. Brave souls. Yes. Okay. How many people intend to do so in the near future?
Depending on your talk.
Wish I'd waited.
Okay. So, okay. So there's quite a few people who are also going to be paying some attention to what's going on here, thinking, what is this going to do?
Could we open a window if we have the door shut, because it's really stuffy in here? Don't know whether you can open the window.
Yeah. Just cold. So why would you want to go to Mavericks when your computer's chugging along on 10.8 or 10.7 or 10.6? I think that's fine. Well, here are some of the reasons why. So this is a lovely word, skeuomorphic. I've only just learned how to spell it. So the whole idea, and I'm sure that you saw this with Graham's thing with iOS 7. Apple have gone very flat with their design and their colouring. I actually think it's a good thing. I think it's a positive move forward. I think it opens up the whole kind of like design palette. It goes away from what you restricted to because you're trying to emulate a material, or your interface. So we've removed most of the skeuomorphic design, the realistic design, from the calendar, contact notes, reminders, notification center, and system preferences. Generally speaking, it's not entirely true for all of those, but generally speaking, most of it's gone.
Can you speak up a bit? I can't hear you very well.
Sorry. So another reason why you might want to move is because it's actually more efficient. For the majority of recent computers, it will make a fairly big impact. For older computers, probably not quite so much of an impact, because some of the changes that they've made to the code rely on much the new chipsets that are coming out, the Haswell range and so on. So things like app-nap. The idea behind that is that the machine can detect when an application doesn't really need to be doing anything, and it can kind of send it to sleep and save power, save cycles. Battery management is better at managing your batteries. It's doing something called memory compression, which all computers have to compete for kind of what goes on in the computer. Things are competing all the time. There's never really enough memory or anything else on the computer, so the application's conflicting. Memory management, the memory compression is an idea they've got to try and make that all happen faster, actually on the memory chips, rather than trying to write it to your disk. So it just speeds things up. And there's something weird called time coalescing, which only happens on the very, very latest chipsets. And the idea there is that it's even more aggressive on how much time it gives any app to do anything, and whether it actually needs to be doing something. 10.8, I think it was 10.8, we started to get kind of like notifications coming in, things flying in from the side of your screen. They've got a lot better, I think, with 10.9, particularly because you can now actually act on those notifications. You can delete them. In the case of mail ones, you can delete them or reply to them directly from the notification if you catch them quick enough. So, for instance, if you've got lots of mail coming in, you might want to triage your mail. You can just say, no, delete that one, I know I don't want that one, and you'll never see it again. So it's kind of quite quick. Something which is a blast from the past is Finder tabs. If everyone remembers, back in the days of 10.9, no, not 10.9, sorry, OS 9, and before, we had Finder tabs. They went away with OS 10, and they've now come back. I'm not sure if they'll stay, because I think they're a relatively small use case for those, and we'll have a look at those a bit later. We also have the emergence of Finder tags, which kind of used to be the kind of categories of colours you could like flags you could put on files before. they've become a bit more useful, and I think they're an indication that Apple really wants us to think about files differently. They don't want to think about where are all our files, they're all in this box, or in this box, or in this box. They could be anywhere, as long as we put little tags on them so we can find them later. Okay, so the one, which is effectively really how all your filing works on a mobile device. They're all in little locked, isolated little places, but if you put enough metadata in there, you can find them, bring them together. And in Safari, there are a few changes, mainly linked to things like the way you see links and you share links, how secure the application is, and on how well it conserves your battery use, because Apple quite rightly see that people who use laptops and things quite often are using their web browsers a lot. So if they can save some power in Safari, that's a good thing. You've already had a little presentation about the iCloud keychain. The iCloud keychain is in Safari. It's actually kind of in the system, but kind of Safari is only the real place you're going to see any actual use of it at the moment.
Excuse me, John.
Yeah.
You use the word basic. It always worries me when I see basic and things like keychain which need security.
It's not the same as a system keychain. A system keychain is an extremely secure vault that is used extensively and has been all the way through OS 10. The iCloud keychain is a way of sharing that data between devices. And I think it's early days for iCloud keychain, and there will be, I'm sure, changes to it over time. At the moment, there's a fairly limited amount of information that it will store. So it will store usernames and passwords, credit card information. I think that's it. And you have to be quite careful about how you authorise your devices to access that information. Okay. So it is quite useful. I find other management programs more useful because they actually encapsulate a lot more activities within that thing. So 1Password, for instance, or LastPass would be two applications I think will give you a lot more benefit. But given the fact that iCloud Keychain is built in, and it's built into iOS 7, it's a good start. Yeah. And last on this list, which makes it fairly different, is that system updates, or Apple provided updates, can now be automatically applied. They can. In fact, the default is, I think, that they are. I'm not a big fan of that. I quite like to know what's going on. Thank you very much. But it's Apple's trying to move forward and saying they want people to be secure. Generally speaking, you can trust them, what they're going to do. So it's better that more people just automatically have an update and if there's a security component to that update, it's an advantage.
Why can't they notify you?
Sorry?
Why don't they notify you when it's been updated?
There are notifications, but then it has been updated.
And you can't do anything about it?
You could possibly roll back, I suppose.
It's not at all easy to roll back.
No.
It's the same thing in iOS. It's the same thing I showed you with iOS. It will, if you turn it on, it will update automatically. It will kind of let you know it's updated. But once it's updated, it's updated.
So, for instance, if you rely on a feature of a piece of software, and they change that software, that feature goes away or acts differently, or it changes in some way, you really want to be kind of aware of that before you decide to make that change. And this is taking that control away from you a little bit. Okay.
So do they with Mavericks now those so your apps update automatically in the background like they do on the phone?
Only a system updates at this point, as far as I know. System updates. So what isn't there? The things that we thought might be there but didn't make it in. There's no Siri. We thought they're bound to put Siri in because they've had it in the iOS for a while. I know they keep saying it's beta, but for goodness sake, it's been around for a while. They must have tested it enough by now. Apparently not. It's not there. However, the dictation system that you can use on here is much better and is well worth having a look at. It's very good. We used to, at work, we used to always buy Nuance's Dragon Dictate for people who have issues with RSI and things like that. actually, we've been trying the dictation in this, and two people I've tried it on have been quite positive about it. The one difference is that the dictation, you can't control your computer with drag and dictate. You can issue commands. There was no airdrop between Macs and iOS, which we thought were quite strange, because you can go iOS to iOS, you can send files locally. Macs to Macs, in fact, since 10.8, you can share files locally, but you can't cross the two. I don't know why that is, but it would have been much easier for me to say, okay, I just want to send a file to here, please. No. What isn't there is a completely flat design. There obviously, 10.9 is a work in progress because some things have changed and other things haven't. So I don't know how many people are avid users of the Game Center, for instance, but you'll notice it's still got green bays. Nice. And there are other issues in there, but things haven't quite changed yet. But I'm sure that will change. There's no control center. People thought it would mimic iOS 7 and have a control center, because that is really useful. I think that's a really good design thing. Stolen from Android, but it's a very good thing. It's not here. You've got kind of ways to control things as you have before through the
Menu bar.
Sorry?
Menu bar.
Yeah, menu bar, the mission control thing, but I think that's a bit half-assed. We should really sort that out. And the other thing that isn't there anymore is update fees, because from now onwards, Apple have said, and they promise us this, they will never, ever, ever charge for OS updates again.
OS 10 updates.
OS 10 updates.
Yeah, it's got to be a little bit.
We're going over to OS 11 next year.
I think you're right. I think they would shoot themselves in the foot if they charge for OS.
It's just not. They'll just charge you £100 extra for your next Mac.
So I mean, it's Apple use their hardware as their revenue stream. This isn't really their revenue stream. iOS, the small amounts of money they would get. It also helps them. It means that the adoption rate for iOS 10.9 has been quite high, which is good from their point of view, because it means that they're moving everybody into a much more, the more people are updating, it means it's easier for Apple to manage the ecosystem they have.
So you can go from any version of OS 10 to 10.9.
10.6. and
10.6.
above.
Okay, that's good.
You can go from 10.5, but if you there's a way of doing it. And if anyone wants to know, I will give you some pointers afterwards. But if you've still got a machine that's old enough that you're still using 10.5 on it, then
It
it's probably too old to run 10.9. So the other things which have got new, and the other reasons why you might decide, yes, I really do want to go 10.9, is because Apple have provided some new updates to applications, their own applications. Okay, we've got iBooks in OS 10 now. Okay, I won't be demonstrating it. I'm not a big iBook. Never really used it that much. I've seen that it works with some PDFs. It's quite nice. I've got other ways of reading things on the Mac, and I think they're actually better, suit me better. But if you've got nothing else, iBooks does work quite well as a repository for PDFs. There's a little library, and of course you can buy the content from the iTunes store. It has maps, and the maps have improved. Apple have had a very good track record with maps. It's a bit better, and it has some nice 3D stuff. Unfortunately, the internet connection we have at the moment is not really fast enough to demonstrate the 3D and fly through stuff for you. So I won't be doing that because we'll be waiting for ages. They've also produced new versions of, and they're about updates. So the new versions, they're not really new, but the new versions, updated versions, iPhoto, iMovie, and GarageBand, particularly. There's also new versions of Pages, Keynote, and Numbers, and they're providing these free with new hardware. Or if, for most users that already have a recent version of any of those, then you will get the update. If it's on your machine, the App Store will see it and just update you, give you a new version. You'll have to, at that point, tie it to an Apple ID, because previously you might have bought it as a disk from somewhere, and obviously it's just a disk. But from that point onwards, it will be tied to your Apple ID. Okay. I can't remember offhand. There are some web pages online which do tell you how far back you can go with these. But I think they've been quite generous with this. And finally, the latest new version has been Aperture 3.5. There have been some. It's effectively the same application, but it's just much more efficient at large libraries, and obviously get more pictures, they get more libraries, and that becomes more of an issue. There's lots of things under the hood which are in better, but Aperture 3.5, if you're an Aperture user, is definitely, I think, a good move.
Is that a free upgrade from Bubble?
If you've got 3 point anything,
Yeah.
yes. Pretty sure if you've got 2 point anything, no.
Unfortunately not.
No. Sorry.
3.0 is.
Yeah, if it's 3 point anything, then you get the update. Some of these updates are quite big. I would warn you. So you have to be, particularly for instance with GarageBand. GarageBand, it's only 300 or 400 megabytes. You think, oh, it's okay. You launch it next time, and it says, I'm gonna download all the content, which is over a gigabyte. It can be, some of these can be quite big. Aperture was quite large, I think, as well. If you have the old versions of iPhoto, iMovie, GarageBand, whatever else, they're preserved for you, and they will still work.
Oh.
Okay, they're put aside in little folders, and they will continue to work. So if you wish to use something, because there are some changes in the new software, all right, which you might not like.
That's quite a new departure for Apple to do that, isn't it? It's never done that
It's
before.
unusual for them to be quite so caring.
Considering how many complaints there have been over the years, they were obviously getting around to listening eventually.
Yeah.
At last.
You can notice that there are two things missing from there. iWeb is missing from there, and iDVD is missing from there. I think Apple thinks they are no longer products which they wish to have any association with. So. iDVDs does still work, and iWeb will still work. Check these; they do work. They work fine.
They won't disappear from your computer.
No, they're just completely ignored.
I see.
Okay, so
When you say completely ignored, what do you mean?
they won't be fiddled with by the operating system. They'll just continue to work the way they have done. It's possible that in future updates, that may well not be the case, but there's a 10.9 and they're fine. So who should avoid it? Gmail users. Although there's been an update, and apparently it's better. I'm not a Gmail user, so I don't have the direct experience, but I do know that people that have done some weird things with Gmail's folder structures have had fairly severe problems with not being able to delete stuff, messages coming back, nothing actually updating properly. Okay, so you might be a little bit careful with that.
The update has. I use Gmail and I had some funky rules, and yeah, Mavericks broke it.
Yeah.
But the update's fixed it.
It has fixed it. I hear it won't fix it for everyone.
Well, I use AirMail now actually because just there was I was looking on the forums as to how do I fix this.
AirMail seems a
and
choice.
people said, oh no, it works really well with AirMail. AirMail's a $2.99 app from the Mac App Store, and I thought, I'll just buy it, and I like it so much I don't use the Mail and Mavericks anymore. AirMail, yeah, it's really nice and simple.
When you say Gmail, is that Gmail when you're popping it from
It's iMac. It's the iMac.
from the
Well, it's
from
not
the
iMac,
Apple?
it's their IMAP interpretation of
Yeah.
IMAP.
Yeah.
So
Oh
it
right.
has a
So it's the
separate-
iMac
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. I don't know about the pop version of Gmail. I don't know.
I don't know if that's still exists.
Yeah, I think my wife is using Pop. So.
Who else should avoid it? If you have some critical software, you should check that it's supported first. I would suggest before you migrate. So there's an app. So there's a site we've mentioned before called Roaring Apps, which has been updated.
It's quite a lot of software. I looked when you told me about it, and there's quite a lot of software that I've got that it doesn't mention at all on Roaring Apps.
I have found it has been useful. Obviously, it depends. It's a crowdsourced website, so the more people that give information about whether a particular piece of software worked or not, the more you can rely on it, I guess.
So, Chris, if you do it and it breaks all your software, you could go onto Roaring Apps and let people know.
If you have any non-Apple hardware or non-Apple drivers in your system, then you should definitely check with the manufacturer's websites first. Because
tablet drivers and things like that.
yes, yeah, anything like that, you should check with the manufacturers first. Anything not non-Apple, you should check. So, for instance, Western Digital provided some lovely pieces of software for their hard drives in order to do all sorts of groovy things with automatically backing up software, formatting specially, all sorts of things. All of their bits of software seem to have some terrible fault, which actually means that they don't work under 10.9. So if you've got external drives, Western Digital, at the moment, it's a bit tragic, really. You can't get data back off on that system. You can get it on a previous system.
HP used to be notorious for this with their printers and everything else, but now printer updates are all integrated into the OS. It seems to work much better. I've got an HP printer and I always dread an update. And this
I haven't come across any unusual printing issues at Apple's. I don't think there's been much change in the printers that Apple still include in their drivers. I haven't seen much difference.
So a year-old Epson
Should be fine.
would be
Yeah,
all right.
absolutely.
Also, I had that G-Tech RAID, and that kept crashing.
Really? G-Tech?
Yeah.
G-Tech?
And I had a RAID card put in the back of the machine, so it might be the driver.
They
I
could
don't know.
it might not be a G-Tech card. It might be a Sonnet or something else.
I don't know, but yeah.
Don't G-Tech keep pace with Apple? They must do, because
Because they're sort of,
You would hope that
products
these
are very
things would.
Apple-centric,
Yeah,
aren't they?
Yeah, you would hope that they would, but obviously you should definitely check first if it's something that's critical to your system. Any old hardware, mostly
As it
before
was.
2008, is going to
As
have
it
an
was.
yeah.
issue. And if you're scaredy.
Is that how you spell?
You said
Cautious cat.
2008.
Cautious cat.
But what about early 2008?
Well, who can run
Just
it?
about.
So there's the list that Apple say that can run it. People have coerced earlier hardware to work, but I would say that'd be dodgy.
It's a feature benefit thing, isn't it? What is
Yes.
there something in Mavericks that you really, really want on that old piece of hardware? And if so, it's worth upgrading. If there isn't, then I'd
So basically, yeah, anything from sort of late 2008 onwards is probably going to be fine. iMacs from mid 2000 onwards are the kind of like the oldest general ones. So this MacBook Pro I'm running here is mid 2008 and it's fine. In fact, I think it actually has improved the function of the computer a bit. I wouldn't say a lot, but a bit. But what you do need is you do need to have 10.6.8 or better already on your machine because you need to have the App Store to go and get Mavericks. Unless you get it from somewhere else. You do need 4 gig of memory, I reckon. 2 gigabytes, Apple say, but I think that would it'd be creaking at 2 gigabytes. And they say you need 8 gigabytes of space. The installer is about 5.6, 5.3. So you need a fair bit of space to install and the temporary files and everything else. But if you think about everything else that's got to come down the line as well, all the other updates and things, give yourself much more space than that.